This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Welcome to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Mike Hack. Mike, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Glad to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking us on your career journey. But before we find out what you're doing today, let's start at the very beginning. And please tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I was pretty sure I was going to be a professional motocross rider, and then that kind of evolved into an F1 driver. And slowly, anything pit crew related, I wanted to be in the motorsports racing industry. And then eventually, that kind of dwindled down to anything in the dirty hands side of automotive. I just like seeing the progress and kind of moving forward with the mechanical side.
So were you one of those little tiny tykes that's like 2 feet tall and are on a miniature Honda motorbike?
Oh, a little bit. I started late, and I'm one of those guys that was a lot better in my mind than I actually was at the time.
A lot of us are like that.
Yeah. I remember myself being amazing, and then in all reality, it was a rookie at best.
So what made you think about Formula One? That is was your dad a fan? Was someone in the family watching it, and you thought that would be cool?
No, I just thought it was the most extreme, fastest motorsport out there.
It is, yeah, for sure.
Just was into it.
Right.
Couldn't tell you a driver or any teams, but when it was on and I would see it, I was just mesmerized by it when I was young. It was just the fastest thing you could see.
Well, that's really cool. Well, what was your first job, one where you really felt like you had responsibilities and wanted to perform well?
Growing up in the neighborhood outside of New Richmond, I was basically mowing lawn or washing cars or doing anything that I could for any neighbors that would help me fund this motocross and dirt biking ATV habit that I had.
Yep.
We did have a wealthy neighbor that kept 2 of us employed with an unlimited amount of hours, and he'd say, hey, if you want to work 20 hours this week, go ahead. And we would wash his cars and stain his decks and cut his grass, and he would sit us down in the office and talk about investments and what we were going to do with the money that we got that week. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized this guy's done this with all the generations of kids that grew up near him, and just a really good role model that didn't need help but wanted to kind of get kids a good work ethic and some extra money for when they were young.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what did that lead to as far as your first job where you got a paycheck?
Well, my first paycheck job was Valvoline Instant Oil Change when I was 16 years old. They were the only people around Cincinnati would hire a 16-year-old with no mechanical experience to work on cars.
Okay, it's right up your alley, right? You can get dirty.
It was right up my alley. I was kind of unaware of how hot cars got when they drove in for an oil change.
Did you learn that the hard way?
Yeah, day one was a humongous surprise.
So walk us through that. Did you burn a forearm, your hand? What happened?
You burn everything you have every day that you worked. If you were in the pit, it was a pretty torturous job. You ate cold lunches every day, but I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. Also learned about kind of large company politics that maybe necessarily the most qualified didn't get the promotions, and that you always weren't appreciated. I didn't feel appreciated very often. It was just kind of like you were an employee, do your job and leave.
Kind of the grind. Show up,
Yeah.
punch the clock. Do your manual task and then head out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, now that we understand the start of your career journey, so that was kind of cool. You wanted to get your hands dirty, and you actually did as your first paid job. Tell us, what do you do today?
Today, I'm the owner and operator of Eastern Corvette. We specialize in restoration to as-delivered Corvette from the years of 56 to 82 for national judging and certification. Along with that comes all 1956 to 82 Corvette maintenance repairs, mild upgrades, that sort of thing.
This is really cool because I'm a huge car enthusiast, and I do love Corvettes, and I've actually been to your site numerous times, which is how we met. So it is a really cool place, some really great cars, and the work you do is absolutely amazing, and I'll go into that here in a little bit. But if you would tell us, how did you get to this position? Walk us through those jobs between oil change to having your own business that's one of the top recognized restoration shops in the U.S.
Following high school, I got basically my dream job for a 17-year-old kid. was I was offered a job to learn custom car audio, the installation and sales side at a local Cincinnati shop. And I spent about 4 years in that, and became really well respected and did some pretty quality work. I had work in the LA Auto Show and lots of different awards throughout those years. While I was doing that, I was working part-time with my father here and there, as he was the owner of Eastern Corvettes at the time.
So you got some great experience early on. I remember when I was in high school, I envied the guys in the audio stereo that could do anything like that. I just thought it was out of the world, the kind of work that they did.
Oh, it was terrorizing cars is what it was. Terrorizing cars and neighbors. We were fantastic at it.
So where did that job lead you to?
Well, we were installer jumpers is what we'd call it. We would jump from shop to shop. Basically, if someone offered you a quarter an hour more or guaranteed Saturdays off, you'd quit on Friday and start Monday at the next shop. And there were a couple of us that traveled to about 5 different shops in Cincinnati. Finally, I realized I wanted to work for Dad when I was 23. Stopped terrorizing cars and started putting them back together.
Right, and I imagine that stereophonic expertise you had was a huge benefit to your dad's business.
Learning a circuit in a modern car and learning to integrate something that the manufacturer didn't want in there at all gives you a lot of knowledge on how that circuit operates and then how to repair it, later in life when you mature, I should say.
Right. Well, what is your typical week like? From what I've seen, it's been very interesting. It seems like you're so detailed-oriented. And if you could, go over a little bit about your detailedness. I don't know if that's a word, but the way you inventory what you're doing, how you keep your clients informed. I was just fascinated when you went over that process you have in place there. And it really shows the value you put in your customers, but also the high quality of work that you perform there.
We've always thought that a client's coming here because they have a classic Corvette. A guy with a classic Corvette, a woman with a classic Corvette, that's not their only car. They're not relying on it to get them to work. And Dad has always said that we should offer a better service and a better feeling than the Honda dealer offers when they're fixing the gentleman's Accord that he drives to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard every horror story about restoration shops and repair shops and people taking advantage of and large deposits. So we offer a service where we do daily email updates. So at the end of the completion of every day, each client gets an email stating everything that we did to their vehicle that day, along with a running total of all costs, a running total of estimates of other things that may need. And that email is associated with a link to our website of the photographs for that day. So, for example, if we catch that we have a leaking brake caliper, I can send them the link. They will actually see photographs of that caliper leaking, so they don't have to trust my word. They can actually see the progress of it and the issues that we may cross. This keeps us in good shape because it stops customers from calling to see where their project is, and it keeps the customer in the know that basically every 24 hours you're going to get an email of what was completed on the car. And it has been a fantastic addition that we started that about 10 years ago, and it's just been unreal.
Well, what's so great about this, and you can see it on all the TV shows that have to do anything with cars, there's so many unexpected costs associated with a car. You pull off a floor pan and then you find rust you didn't know that was there, whatever it may be. Or you see the flip side of that. You hear the horror stories of, I brought this car in for $2,000 worth of work and now they're billing me at $8,000 and, what's going on? You hear the horror stories as well, or your car isn't what you thought it would be. I've heard so many of those where they actually redo the car at another shop to get it just right. And I'm sure you've experienced a little bit of that as well.
50% of our projects are repairing of other professional shops.
Oh, my goodness. That is a lot.
Yeah.
Well, your process definitely takes away any surprises along the way. At least it minimizes them, saying, hey, we got an issue here. How do you want me to proceed? Versus guesstimating what they want and then having a unhappy customer down the road.
When any client comes to pick a car up, there's never a surprise. There's never a surprise the last day. They know the exact totals and everything that we thought through. There's never an unhappy. There's never an argument. And we've been in business long enough and have a deep enough client base that if we get a request for a new client, we require them to meet us in person before we see their car. And we kind of make sure that they'd be a good fit for us and we'd be a good fit for them. Because we have too many good clients to take on a project that may cause a tarnished relationship, because this is a hobby for everybody. So in the end, we want to be friends with the clients and see them out and shake their hand and, not be worried if they're bad-mouthing us.
Right, right. And actually, I took you off our little path here, but what is your typical week like?
Typical week is atypical. And I'm sure that everyone tells you that. I try to start my days with 1 hour in the office, and that would be late at night. I send my emails, whether I do that from my home office or work. When I get here, I typically have 4 to 5 emails from the client whose cars are current in the shop, and they may say, oh, let's advance with this or let's hold off on this. And then we kind of put together a outline for the day of I might be leaving the shop to check on one of our paint shops where we have vehicles for paint and body. I might be leaving to do an appraisal for a car, an inspection for someone looking to buy a car. But in the end, I try to spend 8 hours in the garage, hands-on, whether I'm doing brake work, maintenance work, or what we always have is one full body-off restoration here. So I might spend 8 hours detailing the inside of a heater box that nobody will ever see, but we can log it through our photographs that it was the way GM delivered it.
Right, absolutely. So you're always kind of hopping from a lot of different projects, making sure they're proceeding according to your timeline and your customer's timeline, researching new customers that may be coming in. Sounds like you're working on a lot of different things at any one time.
Yeah, that makes it very interesting. A lot of long hours. I try to work less than 11 hours 5 days a week and about 8 on Saturday. But typically I end up here Sunday catching up on something, or, it's a ton of hours. It's a huge commitment, but it's fun. I enjoy coming to work every day.
Are you still heavy in the judging aspect of it? And could you talk a little bit about your club activity?
My father and I are both Concord de Elegance judges. I'm 40 years old and have been judging in the Cincinnati Concourse for 17 years.
Wow.
We are both NCRS, which is the National Corvette Restorer Society. We have both judged local, regional, and national level there. We are both Bloomington Gold certification judges, and we are both the Muscle Car National Triple Diamond judges.
Wow.
So there are probably 7 people in the world with that pedigree, and we have 2 of them working here.
That is amazing.
So we take pride in saying that you're not going to find a shop in the world with more judging experience and pedigree than we have here.
Right, and I know I brought a car or some pictures of a car I was interested in buying, and you could tell, all right, that's the wrong bolt. That's the wrong this, that's wrong. Because you know your stuff so well, and I became a Concourse judge for Mustangs in the past, but I did it because someone once said it, and I thought it was so wise. If you become a Concourse judge, you know it's right. So when you're looking at something, you can immediately tell if it's wrong, and that tells part of the story of the car's history.
Yes.
If it's got a 65 grill versus a 66 grill, then it was probably wrecked in the front end at one point. That tells me I need to look a little deeper there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, before we move on to our next question, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Do you enjoy your job and find it fulfilling? Or do you spend more time wondering what if instead of what's next? If so, contact Career Spa. Career Spa has extensive programs and curriculum and understands the challenges faced by individuals in transition. They can teach these success practices to be mastered for an effective job search. Answer that what if question by contacting Career Spa and asking their experts, what's next? Contact Career Spa at careerspa.net. Talent acquisition is key to building a successful organization. Talent Connections is a professional services firm that specializes in recruiting, including executive search, contract recruiting, talent acquisition consulting, and recruitment process outsourcing. Whether you are an individual or a Fortune 100 company, Talent Connections can connect you with success. Contact them at talentconnections.net. Welcome back. As a reminder, you can check out previous episodes at learnfromothers.org. If you're an educator or a student, you can search for podcasts by career cluster, and additional resources are under the resource tab. And since Mike is all about cars, if you like cars as well, you can check out some other cool car pictures and videos. Just hit the tab labeled car stuff. And if you go far enough back in my Instagram feed, you will see Eastern Corvette all over the place. And I'll try to get by there soon, Mike, so that I can post some more pictures of the cool stuff you're doing there.
We look forward to having you.
Well, looking back on your career, is there anything that you would do differently?
Well, it's very hard to say. I did attend 2 years of college part-time, and I am not the one that applies himself if there isn't some kind of internal combustion. I'm just kind of not entertained. I do believe that various accounting, business, maybe marketing, web design, any of those classes, just a little bit of knowledge could have helped me along the way. I don't think it would change where we are. I've often wondered if at age 17 I started to work for Dad full-time, at how far I would be as opposed to taking the 5-year hiatus. But I really think that working with several different guys in Cincinnati in car audio and electronics, learning fabrication, I think that's kind of given me a base to start here and maybe kind of appreciate what I do more so now after seeing a lot of things that are done in the aftermarket world.
Right. You made a really good point there about education, because I kind of wish I kind of done the same thing. I went to college on a music scholarship, which meant I was a music major, and I kind of wish someone had just sat me down and said, hey, if you're undecided, just do business, because you can use business anywhere in any aspect of whatever you want to do, even if it's just for personal. So, well, let's make the assumption that someone in our audience wants to do what you do. What advice would you give them?
You can never learn enough. You can never read enough. You can never watch enough television. There's so many shows and so many learning avenues out there. In Cincinnati, we're a hotbed of classic cars, a hotbed of custom car also. Easily to easily get a job at one of those places, whether it's volunteering, pushing a broom. What I always tried to do was pick the most successful, the most intelligent guy of all the shops I worked with, and tried to mirror him, because that guy put his time in, learned his way, learned his methods, and is successful. And you can learn a little bit from everyone you work with over time. And I don't recommend shop jumping back and forth, but you really do learn a lot by the more people that you're with. As far as opening a shop, you could have an MBA, and that will tell you how to run all of the clean hand side of the business. But that's not going to tell you when GM used an 11/32 nut on a 1032 stud versus a 3/8 nut, and why GM did it that way. So unfortunately, it's just experience being under the hood of the car and working, learning the methods. And as I was growing up, I saw Dad reading these assembly manuals and studying and looking at part numbers of bolts, and then going through the assembly manual and going, oh, the manufacturer of this piece of hardware also supplied this one. And just all of those little tidbits of information just you store in the back of your head, and they eventually come up, and it all starts to paint a pretty picture of what the car should have been.
Right, and I'm going to get a little car geeky on you here, because I was just what you said about the bolts and the studs. That's the level of detail I don't think a lot of people realize that you go into. And I know when I brought that car by, at least the pictures, you guys were decoding, down to the day of assembly and factoring in a strike that occurred in 1965 to the labor force to see if everything aligned just appropriately to make sure, it wasn't built on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever, and it was just fascinating to go to the level of detail. And you were looking at the type font on the VIN number, and you knew exactly how the stamping should be in the letter F or whatever. I think it was an R. Was it an R?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an R.
Yeah, you knew exactly. All right, that R was done wrong, and here's how it was done wrong. So your level of detail is just absolutely fantastic, which I don't know that a lot of folks realize.
Let's all be honest. The Corvette guys are crazy. The Corvette guys are nuts. An oil drain plug with a circle around it, 7/8 head, is $150 drain plug.
Right.
And there's 30 or 40 guys in the country that know what that should be. Brake bleeders for a solid axle car can be $100 per bleeder for a tiny 5/16 bleeder.
Right, and you can probably go to Napa and get one that isn't correct for 99 cents or something, right?
Well, exactly, and it'll fly by 99% of the judges. So, in the end, that judge score of your car is only as good as the guy that judged it. And if I judge your chassis, I picture myself in 1963-7 as one of the strongest chassis judges in the country. So there'll be heavy deductions. But likewise, if I judge your exterior, that's not a strong point for me, and you would just fly through.
Right. This is a little bit of a curveball for you maybe, but if you weren't restoring Corvettes, what would you restore?
That's a very good one. I've never been asked that one. I would probably go to brass era.
Wow. I would not see that.
The pre-war stuff. I think it's super interesting. I think there's a lot of woodwork that goes into it, but there's a lot of artist rendition. With the Corvette world, there's so much research. From 1974, they really started logging the aberrations of the build. With Packards, it is unknown who supplied what bolt where, and it might have been this manufacturer that made the door hinge. It might have been this one. So I think you have a lot more leeway in a restoration, and we see that at the Concours d'Elegance, where we have a Napa battery and a Packard, and the Corvette guys are running a $400 reproduction battery with, melted
right.
date stamps. So I do think I've always been drawn to those cars. I don't want to drive one, but I think it would be fun to build.
I'm a Mustang fan. I love all cars, but my first love are the classic Mustangs of the 60s. a restoration shop for a Mustang is a different proposition than for a mid-60s Corvette because of price point. You look at a Mustang that's worth $20,000, you're going to probably struggle a little bit more to make it a feasible business proposition because there's not as many rare ones or ones that are worth a restoration like an entry-level Corvette.
I have a 1978 Corvette in here now that the repair bill will probably be double the finished value of the car. And before we took this on, I said, the smartest money you can have is to donate the car to charity and hire me to find you another 78, and I'll buy you 2 of them for what you're going to pay me to make this one run. But that was not her father's car.
Right.
So
that's what it comes back to.
Yeah, we have to put an emotional value on things, and then you have to say, well, would my loved one roll over in his grave if he saw me spending my life's fortune on a car just because he owned it? So it's a lot of emotional attachment, and that kind of keeps us in the business. No one needs a 1967 big block Corvette. It may be fun to drive, but it's nothing in comparison to a C6 or C7.
So is the 78 at least a L82 4-speed?
No. It's a not original motor, automatic.
Oh, okay. Well, it means a lot to her. Well, are there any current projects you're working on that you would like to share?
Well, one is pretty exciting. I've got a black 1963 split-window fuel-injected car.
Wow, that's rare.
We're doing a body off restoration on it. This car was purchased by this owner in 1966, so he raised his family while having the car and all this, and it's sat for 25 years. So we're finally at the point where we pulled the body off the frame after all the body work was done, and the owner got to see the car in primer last week. So now the car's starting to look better. The first half of the project, everything looks worse. The bills still come, but the last half, the customer sees the progress, and you start to see shiny parts, and shiny parts make people happy.
Is it a red interior car?
It's a black car.
Oh, black. Okay. Wow, that's a cool, rare car.
Now, another car that we have here is a super neat story. Forgive me for forgetting the woman that you interviewed with the Cadillac race team.
Yes, Laura Klauser.
Laura, yes. So she, in her podcast, she talked about starting off with GM and working at the Milford Proving Ground. So all of us GM nerds know what the Milford Proving Ground is.
Yep.
It's like the mecca of fun in the United States.
Tell the average Joe what it is that might not know.
Basically, it's the test and proving grounds for everything General Motors makes. So if they're working on the Z06 and they're working on Aero, they're driving it fast there. If they're working on the Z71 truck package and trying to find a suspension rattle, they're there doing that.
Yeah, those that might want to learn more, you can go back to Laura's podcast interview, which I believe was our 6th one.
So we have a 1964 white convertible automatic car that was in a rollover accident, and luckily the driver didn't get injured. There were no passengers. That vehicle was in a shop in Cleveland for 3.5 years being repaired. The shop went out of business and called him and said he had 30 days to remove his car. Naturally, they spent all of the insurance settlement and the insurance money on the car. So we had a transporter pick the vehicle up, bring it here, and then my job was to basically inventory all of the components, all of the work they had done, determine what needed to be redone, and kind of get him behind the wheel again. In searching through the car, we found the original GM warranty book.
Mm-hmm.
I see that in 1 out of 20 cars that comes in here.
Wow.
Very rare to see it. And when guys have it, typically I say, hey, throw this in your safe at home. It's not worth losing. We don't want someone to take it, So we opened it up, and that would normally tell you that the vehicle is sold by Dealer Network JY, maybe Joseph Chevrolet, to, this gentleman. This one was sold by Chevrolet St. Louis, sold to the Milford Proving Ground.
Huh, interesting.
So we talked to some old GM techs and engineers, and they said there's a couple things that could have happened. It could have been a very high-level custom-ordered car or a COPO. It also could have been a random car pulled off a line that was just, hey, maybe we changed the power window harness and we want to check the 50th one we put in to see how the windows operate. So, no real story, no major added value, but just a really neat thing that stayed with the car all these years in a rollover accident and lost in a shop for 3 years in Cleveland, and it's with the car now.
No, that's really cool. It's cool, even though you don't know what it was specifically used for or why it was called in there. That's just a really cool piece of the history. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Well, as with most journeys, success largely depends on reliable transportation, and since I'm a huge car enthusiast, Could you please tell us, what was your first car?
My first car was a 1989 Volkswagen Jetta.
That's a nice little car.
It had 12 10-inch subwoofers, 3 batteries, and 6 amplifiers.
Wait. All right, so 12 10-inch subwoofers. These were what, in place of the back seat?
Had no back seat, had a flat wall in it, yes.
So you had the wall of sound back there?
Correct.
Okay, and you had
Yes.
3 batteries to power this monster machine?
Yeah, the car had a lot of alternator problems. We never really figured out the cause of that. Might have been the current draw of the amplifiers.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Did you blow out your windows at anything go rattling off?
In the late 90s, it was just a theory that at 170 decibels a window would break. We were able to flex the metal pretty well. I think that car was 152 decibels flat, which was pretty serious in 1996. Around Cincinnati, it was probably the loudest car back then.
Now, did you show that car back then?
Oh, no, it was hideous. It was terrible. It was a horrible install. I lived up to my last name on the installation, but it was super loud.
Wow. Well, that's all that really mattered, So.
Yeah.
Well, what is your dream car?
Well, every day that you ask me that, if you want to call me over like 12 days, and you can ask me, and we're going to get 12 different answers.
I'm the same.
Today, I'm going to say it would be the L88 Corvette race cars of the late 60s, the Owens Corning car, the Texaco cars, that kind of thing. I just really like the flared wheel well, open side pipe.
Is one of those the red, white, and blue one? Mostly white?
Yes. Yep. The Owens Corning car is mostly white and red.
Okay. Maybe that's what I'm picturing in my mind here.
They rarely come up for sale. When they do, they're over $1 million, so I'm not in the market this week. Maybe next.
Well, good news. One great perk to some jobs is a company car. So if I had all the money in the world, I'd love to buy you a really cool company car based on your job. Now, yours, yours I could have made it really, really weird and hard, but then I remember a conversation we had in the shop, and you had made mention how you like driving a new Corvette. I don't even have a picture of it because it's so new, but if I had all the money in the world, I would buy you for your company car the 2020 mid-engine Corvette that's coming out soon. That would be one heck of a calling card for your business.
I accept this proposition.
I accept it as well.
I see no error in your ways on that.
Oh, good. I just watched a video of it in camo flying around the track today, and it looks like it's going to be a monster when it comes out, and that would be it. And you get some comfort in there versus, the 63 Fuelie sounds good. Actually, that's not too bad. But, no disc brakes, I don't believe, back then, or were those even optional?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Drum brakes.
All that gets a little tiring after a while, so I'd get you something new.
With the new ones, it's funny. I had a 1972, and then I sold it and kind of wanted something that I didn't have to work on. So I bought a 2010 coupe, I don't know, about 6 years ago. And I called my dad on the way back, and I said, Dad, it's raining. And the wipers work on this car and it doesn't leak. I go, the air conditioning works.
What's that?
I go, we have been doing this wrong all these years. And he said, yeah, real good job. You sold a car that was appreciating to buy one that would depreciate every time you turn the engine on. And I just kind of laughed about it.
There's that price of comfort for sure.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on your journey. What's the best way our listeners can learn more about you or your company?
Well, they could follow us on Facebook at Eastern Corvette. I believe Josh that works for us, we have an Instagram, but that's kind of the younger kids' game, right? I think it's at Eastern Corvette. And then we have easterncorvettes.com as our website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking us on your career journey today, Mike.
Oh, thanks. It was a ton of fun. I get to sit here late at night and talk cars with another car guy. How could I complain?
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.